Ladies and gentlemen, from the Department of Legal and Ethics Studies and the professor who created Voices of Experience, please welcome Dr. Sam Cassidy.
Well, good evening. It's nice to have you here. First, I want to thank Kate Sparks. She's the one that does all the heavy lifting around here to make sure that these things come off the way they should in a way that we can be proud of. So please give Kate a hand. This would not be possible, but for...
How do you build a business?
Are we ready now? This would not be possible but for our financial sponsors here. This is an old tradition with Voices of Experience. Our financial sponsors this evening are U.S. Bank, Grant Thornton, CoBank, Financial Executives International, Enterprise Holdings, and the Daniels Executive and Professional MBA programs. We also have some in-kind sponsors, Mile High SHRM, the Denver Metro Chamber of Commerce, and Net Impact. Kate asked me to make a few remarks about how VOE got started. That's Voices of Experience. And so I'll try to keep that brief because I know that you're here to hear Kip. But I'll tell you, when we started this program, I'm thinking it was maybe 13 years ago now. We were teaching MBAs in the classroom, and frankly, there was a lack of credibility. When professors who had spent much of their life in college campuses rather than running businesses talked to MBA students about how they should be conscious of running their businesses in an ethical way, conscious of making capitalism benefit a whole community rather than just the people at the top of the corporation, our students would kind of say, yeah, well, maybe, that sounds good in the classroom, but you know, it's a dog-eat-dog world out there, and nice guys finish last. And so we started this program, and we started bringing in business leaders who could talk to our MBA students and show them that the corporate models that they read about in the newspaper that we're all so ashamed of are the exception to the rule, that business is a noble profession, and that business leaders are very conscious of creating the kind of capital environment that benefits broad sectors of the community. And so I am being told by Kate Sparks that our new dean is perhaps interested in moving Voices of Experience back to what we had in the beginning, which was bringing those kinds of messages to our students. And I'm all for that. It's my pleasure to introduce Kip Tindell, who is a good example of this kind of philosophy. He is chairman and CEO of the Container Store. He's just written a new book. It's called Uncontainable, How Passion, Commitment, and Conscious Capitalism Built a Business Where Everyone Thrives. And by everyone, he's talking about not only stockholders, certainly stockholders, nothing wrong with profit, but stakeholders of all kinds. Employees are very important in his company, and we will not find his employees having to live on food stamps. He pays them very well, and they share in the kind of success they have there. My wife was telling me today when I mentioned I was going to introduce Kip that she loves to go to the Container Stores because the people that work there are always in such a good mood. That's got to be good for sales, don't you think? But nonetheless, it's a real pleasure to have him here to speak with us. And we're going to begin his presentation with a short film clip. So this would be a good time for you to start that.
How do you build a business where everyone can thrive? By simultaneously creating value for everyone involved. For us, that starts with our employees.
Everything that I do and don't do matters and affects someone around me. And when you feel that kind of responsibility, going to work is exciting. I can't wait to get up and get my day started. That's what I love about working at the Container Store. I don't just sell products, I solve problems by helping our customers get organized, which I know can improve their lives. I can really focus on helping them because I get the communication, training, and support I need from the company, my managers, and team. I absolutely love
walking into the store. No matter what my day's been like, I can always find a little bit of calm to take home. The employees are so happy and helpful, you can't help but smile. And let me tell you, my kids notice when I'm less stressed. When I can find what I'm looking for, I have more energy, and I can get everyone out the door on time. The Container Store is more
like a friend than a company. I'm not just a vendor to them. We're partners in success. They looked beyond the fact that I was just starting my business, and they saw the potential in my product and in me. Because of our partnership, my business has grown tremendously. We've hired more people, developed new products, and even taken on a new factory. Together,
we've impacted so many lives. Our unique partnership over the years has impacted the way thousands of people think about their minds, increasing creativity, organizing their minds, and increasing their capacity to think smarter. Our connection with the Container Store
has helped us support many conscious businesses. Their commitment to their foundation principles, employee-first culture, and conscious capitalism is not just marketing spin. It's making a difference. The idea that you can make business decisions based on love and still be highly profitable is gaining momentum and credibility. And profits aren't a bad thing. They're what give businesses the ability to take better care of their employees and give more to their communities. It's not altruism, it's capitalism, being done in a conscious way that ensures everyone,
all the customers,
the employees,
all the vendors,
the entire community,
and the shareholders
can all thrive together.
Me in giving a warm welcome to Kip Tindell.
Thank you so much. Well, that's what we're trying to do at the Container Store. We're actually trying to create a business where everyone associated with that business thrives. Thank you, Dr. Cassidy, for that warm introduction, and I'm just really excited to be here. I love Colorado. We've been traveling throughout the country trying to talk about the book and doing a lot of media, and it's almost like being home to be back in Colorado. So, how many of you have shopped at the Container Store? And, well, that's pretty darn good. And for those of you that have, thank you, and please redouble your efforts. And for those that haven't, we have 3 stores in Denver, and one of them's right over here at Cherry Creek, so that's pretty close by. We actually opened our first store in 1978 in Dallas, Texas, a little 1,600 square foot store, and we were credited with being the original storage at organization store, a store dedicated. We were kind of sign challenged. You see the sign here, but graphics got a little better later on. But you know, it's good to be the original storage at organization store, and it featured a collection of products that I think none of the products had ever really been retailed before. Most of them were commercial or industrial in nature. And we brought together products that saved you space and time. And miraculously, and I have no idea how this happened, but miraculously, we had some inkling that being reasonably well organized was really important and really helped you sort of get more accomplished in life and have more time, because you could take an organized approach. I mean, if you have 2 kids to get out the door in the morning to school and you're disorganized, it's just hell. And I mean, if you take kind of an organized approach, it can be you know, a great morning. So I think people think sometimes about the Container Store selling space, but really what we're doing is we're selling time. We had to convince manufacturers to sell us that had never sold a retailer before. Things like dairy crates, the beautiful, colorful dairy crates, they were scared to death to sell us because they thought somebody would climb on them and fall have a lawsuit, and we're like, maybe if you let us sell these crates, they won't steal them in back of grocery stores. I mean, and we had $35,000 to start with, so we would order like 6 yellow and 12 orange and 4 white. And the guy was used to truckload quantities, and we actually had the foresight to sell them at the price that we would sell them at once we could order a truckload. So I really do think we're improving the quality of our customers' lives by giving them the gift of organization, and that we're actually selling time. I mean, how many of you feel like you really have a lot of time on your hands? Right? So since 1978, it's become a lot more intense, a lot more crazy, a lot more multitasking. So today we have 67 stores that average 25,000 square feet apiece, and they're located coast to coast. We'll open 10 more by the end of 2015, and we have about 6,000 employees. We've built this kind of, we call it a yummy, quirky culture business. We've built the business on 7 foundation principles that guide every single decision we make as a company. We're several years into the business, and we opened a store at the corner of Post Oak and Westheimer in Houston, Texas, which is really the best corner in the Southwest. And it was doing 3 or 4 times more than we expected, so it was crazy. It wasn't our business. I mean, the store staff we were hiring scared me. There was no culture. Nothing worked the way it should. It didn't feel like our business. The sales were great. We couldn't even get the product out of the stockroom and on the shelves. We were so busy. And so prior to that, I guess we could take an employee out and have Mexican food and a couple of margaritas and explain to them who and what we were and what we stood for and how things should be and work it all out. But now we're getting big enough to where we really need to sort of formalize that a little bit. So I dipped into this little file I used to keep called my, and it was all the best thoughts I'd ever heard of or been taught or even thought of myself, just sort of philosophy-wise, because I was always big on you should have ideals that you live by should be the same in business as they are in your personal life. You shouldn't have like a looser code of conduct in business, right, than you do personal. That's not okay. And so we went over these. I talked about the ones that I thought had represented the way we had done our business up to that point in time. And they went nuts. They loved it. They wanted me to go around and talk to everybody about that all the time. These were my most personal sort of life philosophies that became more business philosophies. And that's interesting when you start a business. You get to kind of mold the culture around your own life view. And I think it's a great privilege. These foundation principles, though, liberate the individual creative genius of each of our employees to kind of figure out whatever means they want to the end. We agree on the ends so that we're not 6,000 yahoos going in 6,000 directions. But I'm not smart enough. No one's smart enough to tell you how to act in any given situation. But the great thing is, by agreeing on these ends and freeing people to be themselves and to approach any given problem or issue the way that they feel is best and that they think is most creative and that will result in the customer being the happiest. Amazingly enough, when something happens in the Miami store, it's handled almost exactly the same way as it is in the Seattle store. And nobody ever told those people how to handle that situation. It's just the kind of golden rule-ish foundation principles that, why do you do it that way? Well, that's the man in the desert story. So we don't have time to really go into all 7 of the foundation principles. We'll touch on a few of them. There's a few of them that will be flashing on the screen here as we talk, but you can find them on our blog, whatwestandfor.com. And that's I really encourage you to look at that. It really is what we stand for, and we really, the past few years, have begun to communicate that to our customers more and more and more. We used to just kind of communicate it to the industry and our employees, but now we're kind of communicating it to the world, and our customers love it and seem to understand and appreciate who we are and what we stand for. And we've discovered that over the years that our 7 foundation principles that do govern our business actions are synonymous with the 4 tenets of conscious capitalism. How many of you have heard of this whole conscious capitalism thing? It's really getting a lot of play. Some of you may have heard John Mackey speak on this stage, the Whole Foods guy, the co-founder and CEO of Whole Foods. Oddly and weirdly enough, John Mackey and I were college roommates at University of Texas. And It's just so weird. I mean, we both go off and start these retail businesses, and we both really get into this whole conscious capitalism thing. And, you know, he majored in philosophy. I wanted to major in philosophy. My dad wouldn't let me major in philosophy. He told me he wouldn't pay for it if I did, so I majored in English, which, of course, is exactly the same thing. And, but we didn't talk about that. I mean, that's not what we talked. That's not what John Mackey. We talked about girls, right? We didn't talk about all this stuff. But then, so we kept up with each other. But then, 20 years later, we had this big interview with Time Magazine, where we talked about our business philosophies, and we were just rolling on the floor laughing. The interview took almost all day. It was 20 some odd pages on the online version, and it was exactly the same philosophy in both companies. I mean, things that we thought no one would ever think, they thought, and vice versa. And it was not stuff that we had covered in college. It was just kind of weird, and really, I think wonderful. Companies that practice conscious capitalism operate with a higher purpose than just profits. You know. Those companies have conscious leadership. I think CEOs are a little overrated in the world. Really, too much is written, or it's really the whole top management team. It's not just the one CEO person. But with a conscious capitalist company, that CEO and that top leadership really does have to be into the whole conscious capitalism thing, or it won't happen. I mean, they have to be there to support the organization's higher purpose versus, say, just sort of being in it solely for their personal gain. This type of leader, I want to take a minute to talk about conscious leader. It's more of a servant leadership thing. You know, leadership in business, the best business leadership in America, the companies that are dominating their niches and doing the very best, have a little bit different, more of a servant leadership bent today than they did even 5 years ago, much less 10 or 15 years ago. What happened was guys, mostly guys, went off to World War II, and they came back and they started businesses, and they kind of adapted what they learned in the military, this kind of top-down command structure, to their businesses, and that's the way they operated our businesses. And that's a terrible way to run a business. It's just awful. It might be a good way to run the military, but it's not a good way to run the business at all. And so you want people that have a lot of social IQ. Intellectual IQ is great, but it's not even as important as the social IQ. You know, you want communication. At the Container Store, we talk about communication and leadership are the same thing. You know, leadership is communication. That's what it is. You want leaders that are really high on Maslow's hierarchy of need, right? You can't lead. You can't do things for other people if you're cold or hungry or lonely. And so that leadership of conscious capitalism is just a different model. It's a much more feminine model. It's much less militaristic. And I think you see that changing somewhat in politics, but very much in business. It's very, very interesting. It's happening globally, too. It's happening certainly in places like Northern and Western Europe as well. It also means subscribing to a stakeholder model, of conscious capitalism, where you optimize, and optimize is the perfect word, optimize relationships among all of your stakeholders simultaneously. It is so fun, it's so joyful to take care of your employees and your vendors rather than being oppressive towards your vendors. You're taking care of your vendors and the community, and of course your shareholder. All of your stakeholders are sort of simultaneously optimized in order to create value. That's where you get synergy. I mean, a relationship from a group of people where one party's kind of taking advantage of another one doesn't usually last very long. The great thing about the conscious capitalism stakeholder model is that that's a synergistic arrangement that reinforces itself so well that those models usually really endure. And if you look at, I wish we had all night to talk about this. If you look at the companies that are dominating the niches the best and making the most money in America today, they all have that stakeholder model arrangement going on. It also means having a conscious culture. The culture is your business strategy. The culture is what drives the value of the business. And that's a culture that you can feel throughout the organization. I hope you can feel the culture when you walk in and interact with these happy, enthusiastic, well-trained, knowledgeable salespeople at the Container Store who have been there for 4, 8, or 16 years, because people join this company and they never leave, and so you have a conscious culture that you can feel. Capitalism has a public relations image problem, right? I mean, people think it's bad, greedy, all the things that, but capitalism actually has more power than all of the nonprofits in the world to change the world for the better, because it's so much bigger. Nonprofits and charity do great things, and we need them. Bill Clinton's running around the world right now giving a speech saying charity won't save the world, business will. And that's because business is so much larger than all the nonprofits. So capitalism actually is beginning to make more and more and more of a difference in the world in a very positive way. I mean, communism didn't work, right? 200 million people died. That didn't work very well. Socialism doesn't seem to have worked. It's actually been capitalism that's served. It's the most efficient system of goods and services, ever devised. And I'm a nice moderate politically. I'm not a really strident libertarian capitalist at all. But I just think that 200 years ago, 85% of the world's population was living on less than $1 a day, and today that number is 16%. From 85% to 16% in 200 years, fewer people living on $1 a day means that there's less pain and suffering in the world, fewer babies die. I really like what John Mackey and Raj Sisodia, his co-author, write on conscious capitalism about how because of capitalism, we're actually better educated than ever before. I mean, as a country, as a globe, as a world, we're better connected. There's no doubt about that. We're more intelligent. Did you know that people's IQ are going up 6 or 8 points a generation? So we actually are more intelligent than we ever have before. Tolerance is more prevalent. I know it doesn't seem like it, but tolerance, most academics agree that tolerance is actually more prevalent today, and intolerance is more unacceptable today. And it really doesn't feel like this, but we're actually living in the most peaceful time in human history. So we spend more time working than any other waking endeavor, and I just don't think that there's anything that could be more of an honorable way of using that time in your business than operating a business in a more conscious way, where you're really trying to do everything you can to make sure that everyone associated with it thrives, that the vendors thrive, that the customers thrive, that the employees thrive. So while we work to make sure that all of these stakeholders thrive, for us at the Container Store, it really starts primarily with our employees. Our employees are the first stakeholder that we think of when we're trying to make somebody thrive. I think back to the summer of 2008. The Container Store was in a bit of a crisis. Our sales were falling for the first time in our history. Of course, that was the Great Recession time. It was not an experience we were used to. We were a high-growth company. We still have had a compounded annual growth rate of like 23% since our 1978 start. So sales had never fallen. Sales were actually falling for the first time. They went down 8% one year and 6% the next year for a total of 14%. And we had never seen anything but phenomenal growth. And so as the economy crumbled, I was faced with this decision of, to save the company, did we lay off employees? Payroll is usually one of the biggest expenses of any business, but for retail, payroll is next to cost of goods sold is almost always your biggest expense. And for most companies, almost universally, systematic layoffs is the quickest and easiest way to offset a drop in revenue. I mean, it's just the way it's done. But it's not the only way. It's just the quickest and easiest way. Clearly, your SG&A expenses, your sales, general, administrative expenses, have to be balanced with your now lowered sales. And our sales fell during the Great Recession, so we had to find a way to accomplish that. We basically had to try to lower SG&A expenses 14% to match our now lowered revenues. And, but we had built our brand on the joyful conviction that our employees are our top priority and our most treasured asset. One of our foundation principles is that one great person can easily do the productivity of 3 good people. 1 great's equal to 3 good, just in terms of business productivity. And we even talk about the fact that 1 good's equal to 3 average, et cetera. 1 average is equal to 3 fair or lousy, we say. So 1 great employee can do the business productivity of 27 lousy employees. Great people, though, are harder to find. Someone in my position or your position has to really believe that it's possible to find great people to work on a retail sales floor, possible to get great people to work in a hot distribution center in Dallas, Texas. So when we're hiring truly great people, because of the 1 equals 3 thing, we can actually afford to pay them 50 to 100% above industry average. And let's stop and think about that for a second. So you really are hiring great people. You believe they're getting 3 times the productivity. You can pay her 50 to 100% above what somebody else might do, and everybody wins. You win because you're getting 3 times the productivity at only, say, 50% more labor costs. She wins because she's getting paid 50% more than somebody else is likely to pay her. And who really wins? The customer really wins because they're getting this engaged, well-paid, motivated employee that actually really cares. I don't believe in paying average people well. I believe in paying great people well, and we're very fierce about that. We do a lot of training. Great people really want to be trained. I tell you, it's torture to work on a retail sales floor if you don't know what you're doing. It's just humiliating. It's horrible. So first-year full-time employees at the Container Store get 263 hours of formal training. Formal training of 263 the first year, and the industry average for that is 8, embarrassingly enough. As an employer, I think that we have a real moral obligation to create a workplace where people get out of bed and look forward to coming to work in the morning. Just that simple thought. Let's make sure they look forward to coming to work in the morning rather than dread it. Don't you have a lot of friends that don't look forward to coming to work in the morning? Spend more time working than any other waking endeavor. We find these great people through our existing employees. We don't have an HR department. Our head of recruiting understands that it's not her job to find these great people. It's her job to make sure we all find these great people. And they come from all walks of life. My wife, Sharon, is the chief merchant of the business, and I think the best merchant in retail. A lot of our great people come from families. I mean, Sharon and I are married. We can't have any rules about that, so it's just mayhem. People date and they get married, and all kinds of things go on, and that's fine. You know, we're kind of proud of how many marriages we have in the company, and people bring their mothers, and they bring their. I mean, people know which of their cousins. You know which of your cousins are great and which ones aren't, and people. Our friends and family get tired of hearing us rave about the Container Store and how much we love our jobs, so eventually they quit their job and come to work for the Container Store. That's what happens. Bottom line is they have a passion for our brand and for selling and helping people. They want to be a part of the Container Store, and they want to work in that environment. But we also provide something more than that, and something that's harder to quantify and really even kind of hard to talk about in a speech like this. We truly love our employees. And I'm a big advocate that love has a big role in the workplace. Herb Kelleher, the Southwest Airlines guy, founder of Southwest Airlines, told me 30 or 35 years ago, Kip, you can build a much better organization on love than you can fear. And I went, God, who is this guy? You know, nobody ever talks about love in the workplace, or if they do, they mean something else. And we truly love our employees, and we're committed to caring for their whole being, not just as workers, and nurturing that and encouraging them to be successful in business by being themselves. A common phrase is, I love this job because it allows me to be me, and that is just so important. They're extraordinary folks. That's the only kind we hire, these 1 equals 3 people, and we fully support their efforts to be the best they can possibly be, both on the job and at home. I can't tell you how many times I've had an employee come up to me and say, Kip, working here has helped me become a much better person, or this job has really helped my marriage. And I'm like, oh, I just used to cringe when people would say stuff like that. It's embarrassing. It's like, what? And, we have spouses at company events where a wife stands up and says, with tears in her eyes, the Container Stores made my husband a better father to our children. Thank you so much. And I used to hate it when they said stuff like, I didn't know how to react. I was embarrassed. It was like, good gosh. And, where do you hear that stuff in business? And how in the world do you ever get kind of used to hearing it? But people have a lot of their self-image and self-confidence and happiness and everything and self-worth invested in how they feel about their job and how valued they are at work and how great a sense of team there is with the people that they work with. And if a company can make its employees feel, allow them to be themselves and to flourish and to prosper and to, they go home and they treat their families better. They treat their golden retriever better. When they stop off at the 7-Eleven, they treat the guy in the 7-Eleven better. They're more fulfilled. They're much higher on Maslow's hierarchy of need. So it's really important as more and more businesses begin to practice things like conscious capitalism, and some do it a lot better than others. You get a lot more employees around that are feeling better about themselves and treating their golf buddies better because they're more fulfilled and they're less insecure. It's a very important consideration. And these great people stick around. We have less than 10% turnover in our company in an industry that averages triple-digit turnover, which means the average retail worker in America doesn't even last a year, if you have more than 100% turnover. We only hire about 3% of our applicants, which is great. We're getting ready to open Salt Lake City Saturday, and we'll hire 3% of the people that apply for the positions. And it doesn't hurt to have Fortune magazine running around saying, we're the best company to work for in America. We've been on the Fortune 100 best companies to work for in America list for 15 years in a row. And we were number 1 twice, we were number 2 twice. So putting your employees first is not only the right thing to do, it also happens to be more successful than any other business methodology. Talent is the whole ball game. The main thing I've learned in my career is that talent's the whole ball game. Economist Milton Friedman said that the only reason a corporation exists is to maximize the return to the shareholder. And we're like, with all due respect, Milton, I know you want a Nobel Prize and everything, but we found that actually if you take better care of the employee than anybody else, she really will take better care of the customer than anybody else. And if those two people are ecstatic, your shareholder's going to be ecstatic too. But if you just kind of myopically focus only on the shareholder, the magic is lost. You run a good chance that your employees aren't going to be happy and your customers aren't going to be happy, and therefore your shareholders aren't going to be that happy either. So I don't think we really are putting anybody above the shareholder. We are just first and foremost making sure that that employee is so well taken care of that they take better care of the customer than anybody else, and that is the best thing you can do for that shareholder. But back to that summer, with sales falling and layoffs being the easy way out, we just decided that you can't go around saying you're an employee-first culture and then lay people off. And we never have. And I thought about my favorite movie, which I know it's kind of corny, but It's a Wonderful Life. It's my favorite movie because the whole movie is showing this one guy the incredible power of his wake. W-A-K-E, like a boat's wake. And this is a big thing to me. One of my firmest convictions. Think about Jimmy Stewart, George Bailey, about his passion and how important he thought the Bailey Building and Loan Association is to the people of Bedford Falls. This wake thing, your wake and my wake, your wake is so much more powerful than you think it is. It has so much more impact on the people around you in your business that even the most arrogant person you know wildly underestimates the power of his wake. It's a wonderful thing. When an entire organization is mindful of its wake, it adds up to not just an organization that behaves differently and better and more profitably and more socially acceptably, but it adds up to an unassailable business advantage because that organization has the support of its customers, of its employees, of its vendors, of its community in a way that organizations that are not mindful of their weight collectively like that doesn't have. So I really think that having a company that is mindful of its wake is a pretty good way to sum up what conscious capitalism is all about. I knew we just couldn't do layoffs. We had to find another way. And once we decided there would be no layoffs, we had this reservoir of goodwill that was just unbelievable from the employees. We were able to offset the drop in revenue by lowering everything that we did 14%. Toilet paper, computer lease equipment. We tried to get the landlords to lower the rent on the buildings, but they had signed leases. That didn't work. There are fixed costs, you know. And we looked under every rock was our mantra. Let's look under every rock. We put a temporary freeze on hiring, and we quit matching the 401k program for a while. But our employees knew they were saving their fellows' jobs, you know, their fellow workers' jobs. The support was unbelievable. And we were able to bring vendors in, and rather than just beating up on the vendors, they wanted to hear from us too. They wanted to figure out, okay, I'm overstocked on this, we can discount this, and we worked together with the vendors. It was so bonding with the vendors and so bonding with the employees. I went to a huge bank CEO conference in the middle of all that, where, I mean, literally all the top CEOs in America were there, and it was upsetting to me. I mean, it's mostly guys, and it was kind of like a testosterone overdosed contest to see who could lay off the most people or who had laid off the most people, you know, that week. And it was, you know, laying people off is, and it's harder in some businesses than others. But I mean, laying people off is not the only way. It's just the quickest and easiest way. And I think we were able to bounce back a lot more quickly and have fabulous years, you know, right after the Great Recession began to get better as well. So, and I don't think it was just what we did, but how we did it with completely open, honest communication. Another foundation principle that we have is leadership and communication are the same thing. Leadership is communication. That's what leadership is. Employees, all people long for transparency. I mean, I choose friends and employees the same way based on how transparent they are. I just think life's too short for opaque people. Nothing makes you or me feel more a part of something than knowing that everything is communicated to us about that, and nothing makes us feel. Is the mic still okay? Yeah, I think so. Nothing makes you feel more separated than knowing that you're left out of things. So we communicate breathlessly to all of our employees about everything. We're kind of nutty about it. We up, down, all around. However, probably too many meetings, probably too long meetings, probably too many people at the meetings. But we believe that communication can solve anything, and we're really, really dedicated to that. Melissa Reif, our president and COO, brought a heightened focus to this about 20 years ago, and we used to have 6 foundation principles. We made this one the 7th, and she taught us communication is compassionate, you know. I mean, to not communicate is whatever the opposite of compassion is. And I always thought I was a really good communicator until Melissa taught me that I wasn't, because I wasn't always that reliable on it. And then I didn't always determine that this guy likes text and this guy likes voicemail. Say, I hate voicemail, I like text or email. And, you know, you customize your communication depending on who you're communicating to. It's also interesting about women in communication. I mean, almost all of our top positions are women. About 70% of our employees are women. And it's not just because, I mean, I really like to hire a customer, and it's basically a housewares store, so you do get more women still buying housewares than men. But you know, I mean, how many couples do you know where the woman where the guy actually buys more Christmas gifts than the woman, right? I mean, there are still differences here. Who tends to communicate better? I mean, you can't talk about female leadership and how the feminization of American business without making a few generalizations, but I do think that women tend to communicate better, a little bit better at the nurturing thing oftentimes. So communicating during that recession was just so important, and people knew exactly where they stood. They knew they were saving their fellows' work. We were like a family sitting around the dinner table holding hands, figuring out how to get through this thing. And now we're like a bunch of old guys that went to war together, right? We're just like, yeah, and we did it. And I think we bottomed out at about 9% EBITDA, right at the height of the whole thing, which is pretty good. Most retailers would like to have that. Our vendors were willing and able to help us with it, and we did that together. It was a great moment, I think, and we never have laid anybody off. We get rid of people if they're dishonest or they're not productive. It's too important to, if you leave people around that are not productive, you're going to make your best people leave. And so, but we never have laid anybody off. Andrew Carnegie said on his deathbed, and it's another of our foundation principles, fill the other guy's basket to the brim. Making money then becomes an easy proposition. Fill the other guy's basket to the brim. Making money then becomes an easy proposition. Creatively crafting a mutually beneficial relationship. Next to the employee thing, that's my favorite part of the business. You get to do that with vendors. It's thrilling and it's so fulfilling. And the more you know about a vendor, the more you can creatively craft a mutually beneficial relationship with them, the more you can help them, the more you can find something that doesn't cost you much and really helps them and vice versa, and create those wonderful, long-lasting, synergistic relationships. If you look at companies, again, they're dominating their niches, they're really, really good at this. The little container store can compete with the giant mass merchants, not because we can buy more than them, their volume is bigger than ours, but because we can have better relationships with the same manufacturer than they can. And so somebody gets the best price in the country, somebody gets the last pallet of goods of a very popular item that Christmas. Business is not a zero-sum game. That's one of the most important thoughts that I wanted to deliver in this little talk and the conscious capitalism. It's not a zero-sum game at all. Someone doesn't have to lose for someone else to win. When you operate a business this way, the universe conspires to assist you, and it's just delightful. The universe conspires to assist you because everybody's kind of proud of the way you conduct yourself. Think about It's a Wonderful Life. They were really kind of proud of the Jimmy Stewart. They're all trying to help him, remember? You're your vendor's favorite customer. They're in it with you. They celebrate your successes. They like to see you win. Your employees are giving it their all. Academic guy named Lou Carbone always says that the first 25% of any employee's productivity is mandatory. They have to give that or they'll be fired. But the next 75% of any employee anywhere's productivity is voluntary. They only give that in accordance to how they feel about their boss, the culture, the product. And you want your employees' productivity to be up in the 80s or 90s. The universe is conspiring to assist you. Vendors really conspire to assist you. The community really conspires to assist you. Communities say, I want you in this township because we love your family values, and so you get benefits from the community that no one else receives. I like that. I think it's easier to succeed when the universe is conspiring to assist you than when people are laying awake at night trying to figure out how to get back at you. And we like to joke that even our bankers and lawyers conspire to assist us. So. I talked about how that's, I think, how we were able to compete with the biggest retailers in America because couldn't beat them on volume, but we could sure beat them on relationships. So in the end, as the economy began to recover, we restored the 401k match and lifted the salary freeze and went back to offering our annual raises, which we give very large annual raises. We believe in purposely inflating what employees make so that the salespeople of today make what the store managers of yesterday did. Vendor partnerships were stronger than ever, and I think all of the above were mostly inspired by just the open, honest communication. They also knew that if sales ever got down to minus 25%, we'd have to reconsider the whole never lay anybody off thing, because we didn't think we could really lower SG&A any other way at that point. But 25%, I mean, we would have had to have a full stage, depression, I think, for 25% to happen. By the middle of 2010, we were back to posting really all-time numbers, and coming back that quickly, I think, had a lot to do with, the spirit of the vendors and the employees feeling so good about the way that we handled that. Operating this way, I think, acknowledges the essence of the human spirit, the true essence of the human spirit. Everybody you've worked for and every boss out there in America doesn't really do that. Now, you know this. I mean, I don't know why people are still confused about this. People don't want to come to work and goof off and do as little as possible and lay around and not accomplish much, but that's what some leaders that don't understand how to get the most out of an employee believe, and they treat them that way and they act that way. People want to come to work in the morning, and they want to work with other great people that they really love and admire, and they want to do great things and then go home feeling really fulfilled and inspired and about what they accomplished that day, and then look forward to doing it again the next day. Maybe the most important thing about creating a great place to work is that you feel like the people that you get to work with are great at what they do and engaged and very talented and brilliant. You wouldn't want to teach at a university where you thought there was just mediocrity around you. If we created a golf team, wouldn't it be fun to have Phil Mickelson on the golf team? Wouldn't you feel better about being a part of that golf team? You'd really look forward to working on it more. I'm so thrilled with the people I get to work with. It has so much to do with my job satisfaction and how happy I am. And I mean, lots of times it's almost like puppy love or something. That girl in the 5th grade that just liked you, and you couldn't believe it because she was the coolest girl in the whole school, and she liked you. You just never could get over it. And I don't know, but it makes you want to go to school in the morning, right? I mean, it's and you get to work with great people. That and communication are probably the two most important things. And so this type of thing, this conscious capitalist thing, this foundation principle thing is not just the most fun way to do a business. It's the most profitable, and it's the most enduring. Raj Sisodia, who's on our board of directors, by the way, wrote a book, Firms of Endearment, and he studies all the great conscious capitalist companies in America. And examples would be Costco, Whole Foods, Southwest Airlines, Google. There's others, but those are the ones that have been public for a long time. And anyway, Professor Sisodia concluded that over the last 15 years, those companies outperformed the S&P index 14-1. It's not like 20% better or 40% better. It's 1,400% better. It's stunning. It's beyond our wildest dreams that conscious capitalist companies did that much better than everybody else. And I think that is just a great message for everybody to understand. None of these companies are perfect at conscious capitalism. Some of them are better at one thing than the other. Some of them aren't as good with their vendors as other. But if you've got to pitch a tent in some kind of church function, you're going to have to let some sinners in, or you'd have a very small tent, right? But more and more people are doing it better and better, and the ones that really seem to dominate their niches seem to do it quite well. So this approach enriches your life and the lives of the people you do business with, but I'm here to submit to you that if all you really wanted to do was make as much money as humanly possible, as quickly as possible, this is the way to do it. This will get you there quicker and faster and better than anyone else. So as the Container Store takes this next step, we rang the bell again last week at the New York Stock Exchange. It was fun. But as we take this next step in our journey as a public company, we have no intention of changing the way that we do business or of altering what we stand for. And in the short year, 10 or 11 months since we've been public, I mean, everybody says, how's that? Can you behave as conscious capitalist, as public as private? We're not changing. We're staying the same company, and it's been wonderful and horrible to be public versus being private. It's been good and bad, joyful and awful at the same time. But we really know that it's the culture that creates the value. We know our foundation principles and the tenets of conscious capitalism will continue to serve as a beacon, kind of a guiding light for doing what's right, for creating a business where everybody will thrive. And in doing this, our part to change the world a little bit, maybe more than a little bit, and doing our part in changing the world of business. And so that's my message for tonight, and I really enjoyed delivering it to you. It's a message that I delivered about 8 times on Wall Street in New York last week. It's more fun to deliver it in an academic setting. And thank you, and I think we're going to have some time for questions. Oh yeah, the book. Cherry Creek store. And others.
Hello. I'm just curious about your day-to-day process. Can you talk a little bit about your daily routine? Maybe a highlight of some of the little things that you think contribute to your success?
I don't have a routine. I have a yoga instructor that tells me I need to have more routines in my life. And, every day is so delightfully different. And right now we're on this book tour, flying all over the country, doing all these great things, meeting all these great people. 67 stores. I think Salt Lake will make it 68 stores Saturday. You're there, you're in the office, you're working with vendors, you're checking out a factory in Taiwan. It's thrillingly, wildly diverse and different. I get to do it with my wife, our chief merchant, which I really like and really recommend. 200 years ago, lots of people worked together, right, with their spouses. Now it's considered kind of the family farm, family mercantile business. But we don't, an important point to your question, I think, is that we don't understand the balance thing. It's, if you want to do something that's really special and really wonderful, I think you have to devote yourself to it really thoroughly and love it. I mean, we're so nuts, we're still working 70 hours a week, and we love our business more than ever. And to me, it's like Monet painting the water lilies. Was he working or playing? He was doing what he wanted to do, right? And these vendor relationships, they've all become our best friends. We travel the world with them. We create great product with this guy in Estonia because that's where all the wood is, so you do the wooden. And then it's exclusive to the Container Store. Nobody else can have it, and he's the brightest wood product manufacturer in Eastern Europe. And does that work? It's so fun, it's just so great. And I think a lot of people in university settings feel that way because they're teaching and they love to teach. Does that work? Is Monet painting the water lilies, doing what he wanted to do? So, you don't get to do your work. I mean, I couldn't figure out a way. I love fly fishing, but I couldn't figure out a way to just do that. I mean, I think you can have a business of any type and learn to really love that and love the people in it and those people that you love to work with so much. So that's the routine, just being so excited about what you're doing and who you're doing it with, and then seeing the results of that and feeling like the luckiest guy in the world to be able to do all that stuff, So.
Next question up here.
Hi, I'm Laurie Diamond, fellow English major, and my question actually is to go back to your point of communication, and in the overall spectrum, the role social media now is playing in communication. It's sort of, to me, seems like it's become a blessing and a curse in that it's opened windows and outlets to expanding your contacts and meeting people, but at the same time, I feel like it's allowing people to say what they want to say and be unfiltered with no one's holding them accountable. And I just wanted to get your feelings or thoughts about that?
Yeah, I'm having trouble hearing coming back on the reverse there, so I caught about half of that, but I don't know, it's very interesting as to whether the technological methodologies of communicating or helping or hurting, they're doing both. A lot of talk about millennial people being better informed than ever before, but more on a text level, not so much on a deep human level. You know, there's more of this and a lot less of that. And as mentors, you know, they're usually reaching out to us to teach them how to have these deeper, more human conversations and these less, you know, life's about more than just text communication. But they're so much more skillful and graceful at all that than we are, and they know everything and they have everything at their disposal, you know, since they're in high school. So it's interesting. I think what we do with it is we just believe that communication is so important that we encourage everybody to spend most of their time doing that. And we do this whole brain thing where we really believe in having the financial people working with the product development people, because you get this creativity that otherwise doesn't exist. The accounting guy comes up with the idea for the product development thing that the product development people would never have come up with. But everybody just kind of pares down the meetings. People have meetings where they stand up now because they want to do them as quickly as possible. Tony Hsieh, you know, the Zappos guy, is trying to revitalize downtown Las Vegas so his people can live and work and eat and play all there in the same community, so they bump into each other on the way to the dry cleaners, you know, and then and that spawns creativity, that spawns innovation, and it really does. And the more you can get people, but of course we don't have time for it, right? We're just killed by the quantity of emails, and we all are. But I think it's worth it. I don't want to go on a vacation and be disconnected for very long. I like to try to balance it all and have it all and do it all and communicate with everybody. And it's not right to have Melissa on a very important meeting where we're making a big change at the Alpha factory in Sweden. You know, Alpha, we like that product so much we bought the company in 1999, so it's weird now we own this Swedish, Alpha business. But I just hire great people, and then your people will never leave because they want to work with those great people, and then make sure everybody communicates just like crazy. And I think that's the best way to build a culture. I mean, all these foundation principles are important, but those might be the two most important. I don't know if I answered your question. I hope I did.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Kip. Peter Cobb here. I'm curious, I'm impressed that you're still building stores. How do you guys weigh the next 5 or 10 years out? You mentioned millennials. How do you look at the internet shopping, what that will look like in 5 years? Your business is so dependent on communication, interaction. What will happen as people start moving online?
Well, we sell solutions, not items, so that insulates us wonderfully from giant online retailers. It's very, very, very hard to sell a solution over the internet. We do it. I mean, our online efforts are really great, but most retailers don't want to mess with that. It's too hard to sell. I mean, a solution like you come in and you say your toy storage area is driving you crazy, and it's just about to just drive you nuts. And 45 minutes later, after this beautiful creative process between salesperson and customer, you walk out with 12 items that forever solves your toy storage thing. And every time you walk into your toy storage area, for at least the first few months, you do a little dance. You're so excited about the solution. You know, that's a different form of retail, and it's very hard to do it over the internet. And then also, the vast majority of our products are proprietary, exclusive in nature. They're not available anywhere else. And so you can't showroom an exclusive, product. And we work very hard to have air of excitement and great. I mean, you wouldn't believe all the people who have master's degrees and stuff in the stores. I just read the bios of all the people in the Salt Lake store, and the education levels are unbelievable. A lot of retired business executives that just love the culture and want to be part of it. There's a ballerina, it's just the people, and they want to be a part of the, they want to be a part of that company. So, I don't know, there's some thoughts on that. Did I answer your question? I'm usually pretty good at Q&A, but I think this book tour is kind of getting to me. I'm kind of forgetting the questions halfway through my answer. Okay.
Hi, my name's Liz McFarland. I'm a current MBA student here at the University of Denver. And I was just wondering, keeping to your ideals of this conscious capitalism, how do you, or have you had experience in dealing with people that try to take advantage of that ideal, and whether it be employees or vendors or the such?
So just repeat the last part again. Repeat the basis of the question, please.
Just people that inevitably would want to take advantage of the approach that you take to business.
Yeah. Well, they just don't last very long. If they're not a good cultural fit, they leave on their own and they think we're kind of nuts, or other people kind of almost push them out. It's very, very important that they're a good cultural fit. That's what we look for. We interview you forever, like 8 different people that talk to you to make sure that all that fits together. When you go public, you expand your board of directors, and it was the same process there. First and foremost, we want people that are a great cultural fit. We added Walter Robb, the co-CEO of Whole Foods, great cultural fit. He spoke here once. Danny Meyer, the great New York restaurateur, he wrote a book, Setting the Table, that I think is one of the best business books ever written, even if you're not a big foodie. And so just people love the business. They won't let somebody exist in the business who's taking advantage of the system, or not giving back, or not cooperating culturally correctly. We have a few vendors that don't really understand the creatively crafted, the Andrew Carnegie statement, fill the guy's basket to the brim. And it works to their disadvantage. We have a few landlords like that I can think of. The ones that do really wind up being our largest vendors, or our best, landlords. And I think a lot of the others see that. We had a guy once had a kind of a big plastic, it's called Iris, and it's plastic storage items, beautiful though, translucent colors, and the best quality in the industry. But they were in Wisconsin, and we have a 1 million square foot distribution center in Dallas, and it was 17% freight just to get the product to our distribution center. But he was a Japanese guy, and the relationship built and built and built, and one day he said, I'm going to build a production facility right next door to you in Dallas so that we can produce everything you're doing there and see what that does to the volume. And we talked about that, and he did it. He knew good and well we weren't going to leave him out in the cold and discontinue the product line or anything. And he went from like number 78 to number 2 as our vendor. And then we started cross-docking, which means the product never even lives in the distribution center. It just goes straight off of his truck and onto one of our trucks going to the stores. And the annual turn on that line is now like 45 times a year, and it was like 5 or 6 before. And, this trust thing is how you do, great things together. And then that allows him now to be the company of choice when we get excited about, our friends worry about us, we get excited about like the perfect shoe box, the perfect sweater box. And so we waited for a long time to find the right vendor to do the perfect shoe boxes. And they're completely transparent, they stack beautifully, they're indestructible, they fit in alpha drawers, they're perfect, the world's best. And we did those with that guy, and it just took off. I mean, the volume. It's so fun to build creative business with people that trust each other and have a great deal of talent. Yeah. Also fulfills all your merchant creative juices too, to be able to do stuff like that.
Thank you.
Okay, so my name is Christopher Wynn. I'm actually a new Container Store employee about a week now. So it's pretty awesome being here.
About a week? I hope we're fulfilling your dreams and aspirations and goals. And if we're not, let me know. And, we're only fallible people doing the very best we can, but we can always get better.
I'd say you guys have done an excellent job so far. I talk to my wife all the time about the Container Store. But what I was wondering was, there's a number of businesses, let alone individuals, that have principles that they want to embody, but they never come to the point of actually embodying it. Like they're always looking forward to, this is what I want to be, and they seem to genuinely want to be that, but then they aren't able to embody it. So what would you say is the thing that sets the Container Store apart, or makes it to where the Container Store is successful at embodying the principles that they want to embody where others have failed?
Well, I'm not sure. I think there's a lot of reasons. We really are employee-first culture. We really do believe that culture drives the value. We want you to be yourself. We want you to thrive as being yourself. I don't want you to be Melissa. There's only one Melissa. She can thrive being herself. And we're very tolerant of mistakes. You try to create a culture where people are unafraid to make mistakes. We learn from mistakes. It's our job to make sure that you're unafraid to make mistakes and learn from them. You're not very creative or innovative if you're afraid of making a mistake. That's that intuition thing that we talked about. And nurturing, surrounding you with people that mentor you. Even just somebody that's been at your store for 6 months can do so much for you, can teach you so much. We have each other's backs. We're like a family. We care about each other. When somebody gets promoted, I don't know how to explain this, but somebody gets the coveted vice president role. All of the other people that hope they got it are so supportive of that, it's unbelievable. Nobody ever leaves. Normally in corporate America, when somebody gets the CEO or the VP job, the people that didn't get it get huffy and they leave, right? I mean, I get the person that came in second or third saying, Kip, you made the right choice. She's absolutely the right choice. It's truly a team. I think team is what helps with a lot of that, and team's one of the most beautiful of all human experiences when it's done right. And so, the culture is getting stronger and stronger the bigger we get. People always say, how are you going to keep it as you get bigger? And my goal is to get people to quit asking that question because it's so obvious that the culture's, job one. It's also getting easier that institutional investors in Wall Street sort of recognize that. People like Drucker are saying, culture eats strategy for breakfast in the morning. And I think that helps individuals grow and be who they want to be and who they aspire to be. More having a nurturing environment to work in rather than a harsh one that's kind of beating it out of you. That answer it at all? Yeah.
Up here. Good evening, Ms. Tindell. My name is Mary, and I'm from China. Thank you so much for coming tonight and for the wonderful presentation. I'm sure everybody had a great time. I have two small questions. The first one is regarding the international aspect of your business. So right now, the Container Store operates within the U.S. You have 67 stores all over the country, but you do have vendors and partners all around the world. So what do you think, how do you look at the international perspective towards your business? My second question is, what do you think about diversity and inclusion in the workplace? Thank you.
Okay, well, I've been saying that we're going to start open stores internationally in about 4 or 5 years for 20 years, But we opened the store in Indianapolis, and Indianapolis has about 1.5 million people in the greater metropolitan area. And the best location in Indianapolis costs a lot less than it does in Los Angeles or New York or Chicago or Atlanta or Dallas. And the sales were surprisingly, because we thought we had to be in LA and New York, and the sales were surprisingly close to the same, and particularly the real estate costs are a lot less. And so we opened stores in Nashville and Raleigh and Charlotte, and I call it the Indianapolising of the Container Store. And those stores are doing, well, they actually do better more quickly. We just opened one in Farmers Market in LA too, which is about the most expensive, dense place you can possibly be, you know, next to the Grove, which is the highest sales per square foot shopping center in America. But so we're doing both. But that kind of changed my thinking, because that opened up another, well, Salt Lake, you know. We don't have a store in Kansas City yet, and we're getting ready to open a store in Kansas City, best location in Kansas City. These stores are doing 23% four walls EBITDA, so you're not really including the corporate overhead in that, just four walls earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. First year, they're doing 23% four walls EBITDA. And we're getting our capital back in just over 2 years, 2.25 years. I mean, that's an incredible business opportunity. And so we're opening a lot of these Indianapolis-type stores. And we were just getting ready to open a store in Toronto and start the international thing. You'd start with Canada, right? No reason to do London before you do Toronto. And you probably do London before you do Paris, you know, language and all that, although Canada has, you know, some issues there too. It's more risk-free. And the stores are doing great, but I don't want to live my life without seeing this thing in Europe and in Japan and China. People seem to... the other thing that happens is that you get the greatest business people in China and Germany that want to partner with you and help you open in Germany. And it's really hard to pass them up because they're who they are. But on the other hand, 20 years ago, the people who then owned Harrods of London, you know, the wonderful department store, and Stanley Marcus, the Neiman Marcus guy, who's a big deal to me because I grew up in Dallas, wanted us to do a partnership with Harrods of London and open a store. And I mean, this is a long time ago, and we'd fly back and forth on the Concorde with Stanley Marcus and anyway, we said no. And I really think if we had said yes, we probably wouldn't be here today, because, you know, that was too much too early. But we'll get there, and there's nothing really like it in Europe. There's a lot of things about Europe that would make it work well. We will have to re-merchandise a lot of the product, because there'll have to be more of it coming from as close as possible to wherever that location is. These are, after all, empty boxes. They're very freight intensive. My dad... who's still around and playing golf and shooting his age, you know, I mean, he can shoot in the 70s. I don't know why I can't, you know. But he was so worried at the start when we were going to open a store selling empty boxes, you know. And he's kind of a Texas oil guy, and he's like, you got to open a store that sells empty boxes. But, you know, Dad, you and your friends are not really the target audience here, you know, not target customer. So that's but we'll do that, and, you know, I think we're like a long-legged fledgling colt adolescent. You know, the business has a long way to go. We think we can have easily 300 stores in the United States alone, and I think a lot of people are starting to encourage us, well, go ahead and keep opening up all those Indianapolises, but you know, get those other stores open internationally simultaneously as well. So I thank you for that, and thank you for your interest, and something we want to do. Thank you. I've really enjoyed being here this evening. You're a wonderful group. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
That was brilliant. Thank you. Thank everyone for coming, and I just want to remind you that Kip will be signing books out in the plaza after this program, and there will be 2 receptions. Reception for everyone in the plaza, and for those with name tags, I'm told that there will be a reception here up on the stage. I don't have a name tag, so I will join you in the plaza. Have a nice evening.